Okay. Well, first things first, the first question I ask all the candidates is why have you decided to run?
Yes, so I decided to step up and run for Congress here in Louisiana's 4th District because I'm on the front lines as a small business owner and as a farmer. I'm on the front
Yeah.
lines of the affordability crisis. My wife and I, our average household income is $63,000 a year, and that is very close to the state average. And so I'm feeling the same pressure that so many people around the district are feeling. The big beautiful bill, or as a lot of
Yeah.
Democrats call it, the big ugly bill, the impacts that that is going to have here in my community, it starts with those cuts made to Medicare and Medicaid that could potentially shut down 14 of our hospitals here in District 4. And one of those hospitals is in my hometown of Farmerville. And if we lose that hospital, it means that folks are going to have to drive sometimes more than an hour in an
Yeah.
emergency situation to get the health care that they need. And as a farmer, before I was even a full time farmer, I have been an advocate for the federal nutrition programs like SNAP, EBT, or WIC.
Yeah.
And those have been cut by 30% here in the state. And in Louisiana, we have 1 in 6 people participates in the SNAP program, and it is essential for getting kids their school lunches
Yeah.
and breakfast that they need, as well as making sure that they are fed healthy, nutritional food at home. And then, Lorena, the straw that broke the camel's back that made me start this campaign was whenever Elon Musk and his cronies at Doge got on stage and they cut $1 billion in funding from the farm to school and farm to food bank programs. And my
Yeah.
farm was participating in one of those programs with the Northeast Louisiana Food Bank, and that contract just went away. And I started my farm because people where I live struggle to access fresh, healthy food. And I started a farm, a vegetable farm, because I wanted to make my community a healthier
Yeah.
place. And so those are the reasons why I'm running for office, not to mention the blatant corruption that is rampant at every single level of our government. And that's why I have a very strong stance against corruption, including overturning Citizens United and banning congressional stock trades.
All right. Tell me a little bit about your priorities.
Yes, so for me, the number one priority that I have is taking steps to solve the affordability crisis. And
Yeah.
for me, it looks like Congress doing its job in stopping this war in Iran that has caused gas prices to go to skyrocket all over this country.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, as someone from a rural place, it affects rural communities first because our grocery stores are more expensive and our gas is more expensive by 10 to 15 cents than it is in the cities. So, um, in addition to stopping the war in Iran, we have to reverse President Trump's illegal tariffs. And I believe
Yeah.
that that is a stranglehold on every small business in this country. My small business, my farm, every time I turn around, my bottom line is being cut into by these tariffs. And, you know, regular hardworking people, they're not the folks who are being bailed out from or getting any type of reimbursements for these tariffs. And you know, speaking of those, the Canadian tariff, which affects a lot of soil amendments that farmers like
Yeah.
me rely on, they just went from 15 to 50%. And there's certain soil amendments, like for instance, potash, that are only manufactured in Canada.
Yeah.
So for me, whenever I'm going around and talking to folks here in the district, they want to talk about the affordability crisis. They want to talk about um, healthcare. Healthcare is the number one issue
Yeah.
that folks want to talk about. You got the green light. And then we, in addition to reversing those cuts that were made to Medicare and Medicaid in the big ugly bill, which we have to do to keep our hospitals open, I am advocating for the passage of Medicare for all because I believe that we are called to heal the sick, not to bankrupt them. So, and then, you know, here in Louisiana, we had the Governor Landry
Yeah.
back in May put out an executive order that canceled our primary election. And that was the first time that that has ever happened in American history for a non-emergency. And whenever the maps were redrawn, voting rights has become a central pillar of this campaign. And in Congress, we have to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We have to ensure that voting remains a right because too many people see voting as a privilege. And we have to
Yeah.
get more folks involved in our democracy. So, you know, my priorities, it really boils down to solving the affordability crisis, making sure that everyone has health care, and then making sure that everyone has the constitutional right to cast a ballot because our democracy here in the United States is under assault in so many levels, like not just with the executive branch, but with Congress trying to pass legislation like the SAVE Act that would
Yeah.
disenfranchise tens of millions of Americans. And look, what's so bizarre is that this is the first legislation since before the Civil War that is going to make it harder for Americans to cast a ballot, and I think that that says a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell me a little bit more about your stances on healthcare and of course, what it means for rural communities.
Sure. So my stances on healthcare are informed by being someone who struggled to afford healthcare. When I started my small business, when I started my farm, my brother and I both struggled to afford healthcare.
Yeah.
Here in the U.S., we had the Affordable Care Act subsidy extension that failed to go through Congress. And whenever that failed, there were tens of millions of Americans who could no longer afford their healthcare coverage. And for instance, that happened to my brother and my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law has pre-existing medical conditions, and my brother had to cancel his insurance policy because it went from their combined policies went from $400 a month to $1,400 a month.
Wow. That's too much.
Um, yes, and so it became, and my sister-in-law has pre-existing medical conditions. She
Yeah.
has to have her healthcare coverage. She cannot go without healthcare. But there's been so many folks, you know, the way that constituents are willing to be vulnerable with you, I did not expect that on this campaign trail. But the stories that they tell you will absolutely break your heart and enrage you because it's folks who are
Yeah.
being kicked off of their plans in the middle of treatment. It's folks who have to fight and advocate for themselves to get the treatment that they need because the insurance companies keep denying their procedures. And they do all of this fighting from a hospital bed. And so for me, making sure that we have Medicare for all with an option for people to keep their insurance that they have right now, because
Yeah.
I believe in freedom and opportunity. I don't believe in mandating Americans to do anything. So we have to make sure that we, first off, take care of every single person who does not have health care, make sure that they have a pathway to access affordable health care, if not
Yeah.
free health care, while maintaining the private insurance industry. And if Americans want to participate in that, then they are welcome to. But my stance on this is also informed by being raised in the South and growing up in church and with Christian values. And
Yeah.
in The New Testament, I believe that we are called to feed the hungry, to heal the sick, to clothe the naked, and to house the unhoused. And these are values that so many Southerners have, but because the Republican Party has divided hardworking people by these culture war, empty shell culture war
Yeah,
propaganda talking
yeah,
points, and dividing people along racial lines, because that is still a big issue here in the U.S. and in the South. Um,
yeah,
these forces are just separating people and making working folks and turning working folks against each other. And I'm just here uh, to offer the voters a candidate not that doesn't just have common sense, but who is also pragmatic. And I think that everyone, regardless of their political party, understands working for the people. And that message is resonating really well with folks here in the district, because no, you ask folks, what is Mike Johnson work make better? There's folks who have said data centers that are popping up all over Louisiana as economic development. But outside of that, no one has been able to give me a good answer.
yeah. All right. Well, I want to ask you about the affordability crisis and what are your policies on that issue? What would you do to, you know, to make sure that people can thrive in your district?
Yes, so the oil futures predictions that I'm seeing is that even if the Strait of Hormuz opened fully, we still would have a long time before gas prices start to go down.
Yeah,
So that's why I say we cannot act with quick enough action to end that war and to open the Strait of Hormuz and allow um, global commerce to return to some semblance of normalcy. Um, I believe that immediately stopping the president's tariffs would bring down the price of goods all over this country, from the grocery store to the office supply store to um, big box stores. It is absolutely crushing regular working people who already before these tariffs were struggling paycheck to paycheck. Um, so stopping the war in Iran, making
yeah,
sure that we stop the tariffs, and I think that uh, we have to return the well. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But for me, solving the affordability crisis, it looks like bringing down the price of gas and then ending the tariffs, and that would provide immediate relief for Americans.
yeah,
Although the gas is still going to take a while to come down, that's why we have to act now.
yeah. Okay. What about the the subject of education and other areas that the current administration has been cutting?
Yes, we have to make sure that the Department of Education stays intact, because it doesn't control each individual school district, but what it does is it protects students from discrimination.
Yeah,
Whether they are special education students or anything like that, it provides guardrails so that our kids aren't taken advantage of. And I believe that it is important to establish a standard around the country that all schools try to live up to. For me, it looks like fully funding education. And I believe that the federal government should um, expand before kindergarten, and we should offer pre-K for children starting at 3 years
Yeah,
old. And of
yeah,
course, the government has to offer um, and make sure that the teachers who are responsible for our youngest children have the appropriate credentials and everything like that. So there has to be a standard. But I am an advocate um, for public schools to exist all the way from pre-K 3 through your final years of university. So
yeah,
from pre-K all the way through college, if you want to get an education, but say you cannot afford it, there should be a pathway for you to improve your life and to live your version of the American dream. I'm so grateful for my college degree. I worked really hard to get it. And while I was in college, we saw Louisiana cut the budget to higher education under the Bobby Jindal administration. I
yeah,
believe it was by 75%. And while I was in college, my tuition went from around $1,000 a class all the way up to $3,000 by my senior year. And so it was getting extremely unaffordable. And now a lot
yeah,
of uh, a lot of our students are going back to school and telling me that they're having a big problem accessing their Pell grants because the funding to that program has been cut. And so they're having to take
yeah,
out even more student loans and be even more um, burdened by debt. And one of those students is a first generation college student. And this is her first semester starting school, and she was counting on those Pell grants. And now her future is very uncertain because she's looking at a big increase in how much her student loans are going to cost.
yeah. All right. Well, I think the area of environmental protection is also very important, and of course in rural communities, I think that that is a major issue you're facing. I don't know if you have any specific policies that you want to tell me about.
Sure. So I believe that climate change is an existential crisis, not just facing District 4, but one that's
Yeah,
an existential crisis of the world. And I have been personally impacted not just by paying a higher insurance premium on our house, for instance, but in January of 2024, my farm was directly hit by an EF2 tornado, and it destroyed a lot of our infrastructure. And still, my farm is trying to financially bounce back from that hit. And so I know firsthand we are. I say this as someone who works outside too, but we are dealing with a climate and climate patterns that are shifting. If you look at the floods in Nepal, what's been going on this week is just absolutely tragic and heartbreaking. And
yeah,
honestly, I have never seen any type of footage like that. I'm getting chill bumps right now thinking about it.
yeah,
Um, but for instance, in Louisiana, we now are part of what is called Dixie Alley. So there is Tornado Alley that stretches all through the Midwest from um, North Dakota all the way down through Texas. Well,
yeah,
now there is a horizontal line that travels around the I-20, the Interstate 20 corridor, going through Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. And during the winter now, we have a high number of tornadoes that happen. And in a rural
yeah,
place, there are so many folks who live in areas with a lot of different trees. And the most deadly part of those tornadoes is whenever they fall on someone's mobile home or someone's vehicle or fall over in the road
yeah,
while that person is like driving down the road. So we we live in an era where FEMA in this country has been cut, where disaster assistance has been cut. And I believe that the federal government has to make disaster uh, insurance a public so that it becomes affordable for people because we are getting priced out of our mortgages in states like Louisiana or Florida. Um, we have to fully fund these emergency services like FEMA so that whenever our communities are hit, they can and take care of. And as a farmer and someone who relies on NOAA and accurate weather forecasts, it makes me ashamed that our weather forecasting is less accurate this year than it was the previous year because NOAA has fewer weather balloons going up. There's less monitoring. There's less meteorologists, and so we
Yeah.
are we are trying to deal with these climate emergencies and our predictions and monitoring and alerts have been downgraded. So there's so many problems that we have to do. And speaking of climate change, there is currently no plan to deal with Louisiana's eroding coast we lose. The last time I looked, it was 100 yards a day of our coastline is eroding. And every time we have a tropical storm or a hurricane, we lose even more. And I believe that the state of Louisiana has to work with the federal government in
Yeah.
order to create a 50-year climate change plan that addresses our eroding coast and the changing climate patterns that our state deals with, especially during the winters. Our winters are getting a lot more severe, and it started snowing almost every single year without fail. We used to not get snow every year, but snowstorms. Look, the last year, I think it was right around Christmas, or maybe it was January of this year. Monroe and North Louisiana was hit with an historic ice storm. And I could not believe whenever I drove into Monroe just how extensive the damage was.
Yeah.
So, our communities are feeling it's not just flooding, it's powerful storms, it's winter storms. I feel like as a farmer, I have been through every natural disaster except for an earthquake and a wildfire.
Yeah. Okay, well, the last question would be about civil liberties and the voting rights, of course.
Mhm. This really gets me going. I'm sorry if I get fired up, but whenever you start talking about taking away people's constitutional rights to participate in our democracy, it makes me feel some kind of way.
Yeah.
In Congress, I will work to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act because we have to make it easier in the United States for people to cast a ballot. We have to provide more ballot locations. I believe that there needs to be regulations in place to stop states from discriminating because the United States does not have a problem with illegal voting.
Yeah.
The propaganda coming from the conservatives in this country is a bold-faced, flat-out lie. There are not folks who are trying to, and even I hate the word illegal immigrants, but there are no
Yeah.
non-US citizens who are actively trying to manipulate or rig our elections. The number of fraudulent voter prosecutions and claims every year is so low that it is it's a non-issue for me.
Yeah.
Like we have to make sure, yes, that you can vote safely and securely, but I do not think that people are taking advantage of the system. And so, in addition to the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, we have to get billionaires and corporations out from influencing our democracy. And so that's why I'm also a proponent of campaign finance reform and ending Citizens United.
Yeah.
I would even be willing to look into publicly funded elections because all these guys, the Joe Rogans and the podcast bros of the world, they always want to say, "Oh, well, I just care about the ideas. We need to let the best ideas win." Well, it sounds to me like in
Yeah.
a publicly funded election where every candidate has the exact same amount of money to spend, that's how you get the best ideas to win.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to add.
Um, I would just like to say that I'm a regular, hardworking person, and I decided to step up and run for this office because I really do think that our democracy here in the United States is at a critical juncture. And
Yeah.
the dystopian Orwellian future that President Trump and JD Vance or all of these tech bros and including Speaker Mike Johnson, the vision that they have for America does not include what freedom and liberty really means. For me, it is about selling out our freedom and liberty in exchange for security. And really, what they're selling is fear. But
Yeah.
what myself and Democrats all over this country are trying to do is to sell people hope. We really want folks to understand that the government can work for the people. And that's why my platform, I believe, has solutions that, if enacted immediately, would provide relief for working people to improve their quality of life. And I think that District 4 and our people here are worth fighting for. And I say that as a sixth generation Louisianan.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for doing this interview with me. I hope you have a nice day.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And look, Lorena, what part of España do you live in?
I'm from the Northwest.
Northwest. So is that Catalonia?
No, that's Northeast. I'm in
That's
Galicia.
Northeast. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Look, I've wanted to go visit Spain for a long time. It's my wife has been to Barcelona, but I really want to go so bad.
Yeah, you should come to Galicia. This is a very we have rural communities, this is a very nice place to stay. People here are very welcoming, so you should come totally.
Absolutely. Well, look, I appreciate the opportunity, and if you need any follow up to anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. You have our email, you've got my phone
Yeah.
number, I believe too. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice
All
day.
right. I hope that you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.